Welcome back to Amerisogyny. I'm your host, Hannah Blue. You're listening to episode 55. See you soon. Why am I calling this episode See You Soon? Well, I found a collection of stories that on the surface really have no correlation to each other. They deal with loss and grief, intolerance. They follow the same pattern of stories that I bring you every week. I try to bring stories that invoke compassion, inspire advocacy. My number one goal for this podcast is to connect with listeners, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what language you speak or how old you are. We all have common threads that bind us together. We have the capacity to love and to mourn. As you transition from your week and into your weekend, let's get ready for our first stop, Illinois. The story of this incredible young man was brought to me by one of my models, Leash, who lives in Canada. She's absolutely gorgeous inside and out. I met her on Twitter many moons ago, and we just clicked. Then and now. She asked me to feature this young man's story on my podcast, and after I finished processing what happened to him, the only thing I can think of was senseless. This was so senseless. It didn't have to be. Let's get into it. His name was Jaden Perkins. He was 11 and lived in Chicago with his mother. He was a very gifted dancer and had a love for theater. Well, he died protecting his pregnant mother. And who took his life? A convicted felon. What's crazy to me is the media reported his mother dated this man 15 years ago. 15 years is a long time. 15 years ago, 37-year-old Crossetti Brand was 22 years old. What provoked him to find his now 33-year-old ex-girlfriend and stab her while pregnant and her son is anyone's guess. Police are keeping hush on the motive for now. According to media, this happened on March 15th at around 8 a.m. The mother was getting her children ready for school when Brand broke into her home and attacked the woman. Jaden ran to protect his mother and ended up getting stabbed in his chest. Both were rushed to the hospital. Jaden died, but his mother and her unborn baby survived. According to Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling, Brand was released on parole after violating his probation multiple times. He said, "Let me start by saying this is something that should have never happened." Before getting out on parole, he had served a 16-year sentence for home invasion and aggravated assault. He was housed at the Stateville Correctional Center. Only one day after being released on parole, he took Jaden's life. Clearly, he had a history of violence because the mother had a protection order against him. Her 5-year-old son saw this man stab his mother and his brother. In a previous episode, we talked about never growing up. This child is never going to forget what he saw. Brand has been charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, home invasion with a dangerous weapon, unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, and prior violation of an order of protection. Brand has a documented history of being a threat. In October, he was released on parole and had to wear an ankle monitor. During this time, he threatened the woman through text and showed up at her home. He was sent back to prison in February for violating his parole, but was released again in March. According to Snelling, he disagreed with Brand being released on parole. According to him, he violated parole. He violated an order of protection, and it involved the same type of crime that he was paroled for. So this is someone who should not have been on the street. People who knew and loved Jaden said he was known for his love of spending time with friends, playing sports, and performing. His infectious laughter and kind heart touched the lives of everyone he met. He had a signature talent for performing in theater and had the lead role in several school plays, including Finding Nemo. It has been said he was always willing to lend a helping hand, and he will be remembered fondly by all who knew him. Now, this is a story that should have brought people together, but what blew my mind, reading some of the comments on social media, the misogynoir was sickening. People actually blamed the mother. And yeah, I'm going to read some of these comments just to show you how depraved some people are. Women, stop being so hungry for a man to be in your life. Y'all be tripping. Someone responded, the mother was not in a relationship with this man. This demonic man was her former ex, whom she removed from her life years ago. After this man was released from prison, he stalked her and killed her son. This is on the perpetrator, not the victims. Amen to that. Another asinine comment. This it is enough. The mother should be charged also until proven guilty. My thoughts or beliefs. And another responded, y'all hate women if you're blaming the mother more than the man committing the crime. And another said, so true. The man is to blame and the system for not protecting this family, period. And the last rational, insane comment I'm going to read, I blame the mom. You blame her for leaving a toxic relationship and getting tracked down years later against her will? Oh, okay. I'm with every sane and rational person that had a response. Misogynoir is real. And if you don't know what misogynoir is, it's a term coined by Moya Bailey. It is the specific hatred, dislike, distrust, and prejudice directed towards Black women. A very good example of misogynoir is when Megan Thee Stallion, the rapper, was shot in the foot by Tory Lanez. Megan was dragged through the mud. People called her a liar, a snitch. They made fun of her. By the time the verdict was handed down, her reputation took a bigger hit than Tory Lanez. And think about it. Megan Thee Stallion is popular. She's made a lot of money, but none of it protected her. None of it brought compassion when she needed it the most. Same with this mother. This mother did nothing wrong. She left an abusive relationship. 15 years is a long time. And what do people do? Blame her instead of the man that took her son's life and attacked her and her unborn child. It's heartbreaking. I'm talking about misogynoir for a reason because it's going to lead us on our next stop to our next story. But in the meantime, and the fallout didn't stop there, a member on the Prisoner Review Board resigned after Jaden was killed. The governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, announced the resignation of Leanne Miller, who conducted Brand's parole hearing. According to Pritzker, the Prisoner Review Board must be able to operate independently as they review enormously difficult cases. But I believe Leanne Miller has made the correct decision in stepping down from her role. It is clear that evidence in this case was not given the careful consideration that victims of domestic violence deserve, and I am committed to ensuring additional safeguards and training are in place to prevent tragedies like this from happening again. My thoughts are with Lataria Smith, that's the mother, as she recovers, and with the entire family of Jaden Perkins as we mourn this tragic loss. May his memory be a blessing. Should Miller have stepped down? Absolutely. Brand had a documented history of violence. There's no way he should have been let out on parole again. It's so sad that something tragic has to happen before change comes. But hopefully, the loss of Jaden will steer this prisoner review board to do what it needs to do to protect the people who need it the most. Jaden, we know you're no longer dancing with us, but I have no doubt you're dancing in heaven. Rest in peace, Jaden Perkins, a young man with so much promise, gone way too soon. There's a reason I'm talking about Misogynoir, because it covers our next story at our next stop. Beauty influencer Jessica Petway died from cervical cancer. She was 36, and this woman was absolutely stunning. Petway was a veteran beauty influencer on YouTube. She had 228,000 subscribers. In her videos, she talked about being married, motherhood, and mental health. Last year, Petway disclosed on Instagram she had been misdiagnosed by her gynecologist, who said she had fibroids. In June of 2022, she started having symptoms, which included intense vaginal bleeding, weakness, and fatigue. Just 1 month later, she shared, "My husband found me in the bathroom, unresponsive and not breathing. I had literally passed away. He called on Jesus to bring me back, and I came back. I was rushed to the hospital where they told me that the extreme blood loss was due to fibroids. My gynecologist made it seem like it was so normal and common. I didn't think much of it. However, I was passing clots the size of a placenta, which was really alarming." Petway went to the hospital again on July 22nd, 2022, but the doctor still claimed it was due to fibroids. The bleeding went away until the end of the year. However, at the top of 2023, it was recommended that she undergo multiple blood transfusions, and after receiving a biopsy, she learned she had stage 3 cervical cancer. Now, why does this hit home? What does this have to do with Misogynoir? Because Black women have to fight for the right to be treated with dignity and respect in the medical field. According to the United Nations, women and girls of African descent face a systemic and historical pattern of racial abuse in the health sector in countries across the world. What's the name of this podcast? Amerisogyny. Jessica Petway lived right here in the United States. But this happens all over the world, you guys. That's right at the very heart of Amerisogyny. According to Natalia Canham, Executive Director of the UN Population Fund, too often, Afro-descendant women and girls are abused and mistreated, their needs are not taken seriously, and their families are shattered by the preventable death of a loved one. Justice and equality will only be possible when our healthcare systems see these women and provide them with respectful, compassionate care. And what country has the worst discrimination against Black women? The United States. Right here in my country, Black women and girls are 3 times more likely to die while giving birth or within 6 weeks of giving birth compared to white women and non-Hispanic women. It doesn't matter if you have advanced degrees or make 6 to 7 figures. Maternal deaths among Black female college graduates are still 1.6 times higher than those of white women with less than a high school diploma. So how do we combat misogynoir? How do we stop Black women from dying? The first thing is to listen to Black women without tone policing, without gaslighting, and without being defensive. When outspoken, notice I said outspoken Black women because we're the ones who are at the center of misogynoir, not the Black women who don't speak out. There's a difference. Whenever we begin to speak out, there is a defensiveness that shuts everything down. Too many times our voices are overlooked, stifled, muffled. If you're a non-Black person, the key to understanding misogynoir starts with you. It is 2024. The ones who are smart and non-racist will get exactly what I'm saying. This beautiful woman didn't have to die. Here's some truth. It is Black women who are more likely to be diagnosed with cancer at a later stage than non-Black women. Why? Bias, racism, and discrimination. Petway faced an abundance of hospital bills and long hospital stays. But through it all, she relied on her family and her faith. Petway posted on Instagram, "So many new changes are happening in my life, and it's kind of scary. But I prayed for it, and as long as I follow God and hold on to my daily, the blessing we've been waiting for will blow our minds." Right up until the end, she kept her faith. The medical community failed Jessica Petway. Her death has left such an impact on her family and her followers. People posted on Twitter, now known as X, Black women are mistreated and ignored by doctors, even Black women doctors. I have tales for days. I'm so sad to hear about Jessica Petway. Fam, what are we going to do? And another posted, "Whoa, what an immense loss. R.I.P. Jessica Petway, an OG, which means original, an OG in the beauty space, and one of my inspirations. Sending her family much love. It is beyond alarming that Black women aren't supported properly in the health space. She deserves better. I am simply grateful for her impact." And so am I. And it needs to stop. This gorgeous lady left behind her husband, her children, and it should have been avoided. If you're a Black woman who listens to me, advocate for yourself. Demand biopsies. Get second opinions. If you're seeing a doctor that won't listen to you, who brushes you off, get another one. Life is much too short to be playing games. R.I.P. Jessica Petway. I am so sorry you left this world in such a tragic way. From one woman of faith to another. We'll see you soon. Thank you for all the gifts you brought to us. And with that, folks, I'm out of time. If you learned anything from this episode, feel free to follow me on Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Samsung, iHeartRadio, and more. Listeners, Google Podcasts is leaving on April 2nd. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube Music to continue listening to me on the Amerisogyny podcast. Easter weekend is coming up. I hope you all will have a good Resurrection Sunday. I will be back with more stories, so you be easy and take care of yourselves. And as always, God